Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have the Cowman of Copalis Beach. So this one is a little different from it's not an SCP. It's not it's not necessarily a creepypasta, although it has been copied and pasted across the internet according to a Google search of the Cowman of Copalis Beach. No, this is actually a Bigfoot account that was suggested to us by a friend of mine and a listener of the show, Lee. So this one goes to you, Lee. We're doing a story that you recommended.
Years after the fact, probably, knowing us.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. This was actually pretty recently. He recommended this. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Me and Lee, like, we hang out and we watch horror movies and we talk about cryptids and like cryptid sightings and like such like that, like skinwalkers, Bigfoot, ghost hunter stuff. So, he watches and listens to a lot of those videos on YouTube and stuff like that about like people who have experiences with like cryptids and monsters and ghosts. So this is all, and this is definitely something I as a kid I loved Bigfoot, like reading Bigfoot stories, like learning more about him through like various like unsolved mysteries and countless books on my shelf that I'm staring at right now, like Mysteries of the Unexplained, The Unexplained, The Unexplained and You. Literally books on my shelf from my childhood.
We have very different shelving units in our respective recording rooms. I have like Halo in here and Saints Row.
Well, it's fitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I'm a huge cryptid nerd, and have been since I was a kid. So, and this is kind of a first for our episode. We've never really tackled a Bigfoot story, even as a creepypasta. I don't think we've really I don't remember us doing a Bigfoot creepypasta. Like we've done the Goat Man, which is a cryptid that is popped up in Bigfoot lore, across America. But we've never done like a legit Bigfoot story.
Really? Are you super sure?
I don't. We did there was a Chinese Bigfoot monster story that we did. I think last year or the year before. But not like not. But it was like, and it was it was basically like a Chinese iteration of the Bigfoot. But we've never done like an American Bigfoot creepypasta sighting story.
Hot damn.
Yeah. So yeah, the Cowman of Copalis Beach is it's credited to SD Baker. You can find it on BigfootEncounters.com under their story section. This one may or may not be like an actual account. It might be like it's like credited to being authored by SD Baker. And again, it's made some rounds elsewhere online. Like I found it also, like I found an exact copy of it on Reddit No Sleep. And there's like a ton of people who have like talked about it on like cryptid podcasts and other like little podcasts and shows on YouTube and such. So, just like skimming down the Google search listing that I used. So yeah, this is going to be like take it with a grain of salt, whether or not this is like an actual account somebody had of Bigfoot in search, but we're gonna dive into it as a story.
So I have a quick question.
Yes.
What do you define as an actual Bigfoot story? Compared to
compared to a creepypasta?
Yeah, because like for example, I did a very quick Google search of Al Dente Rigamortis Bigfoot, and it came up with this one from I'm Not Scared, which I see the title art of you being devoured by a Bigfoot, and I'm hiding behind a bush, and there's a Bigfoot behind me.
That was the Chinese Bigfoot story, creepypasta.
Oh, okay. That's the exact one that you said.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah, I'm Not Scared. That's what it was called.
Okay.
Well, that one again, like I consider like an actual Bigfoot story versus a creepypasta story. Like creepypastas are fictional or are supposed to be completely fictional.
Yes.
Whereas a Bigfoot story, there's a little bit more kind of like there's skepticism and leeway as to whether or not it's an actual account that somebody claims to have seen a Bigfoot. That's what I was kind of getting at with this. Like this one may or may not be an actual Bigfoot like sighting account that somebody had. And like I said, like take that with a grain of salt because like I mean who the fuck knows? Like these told online, like they might be real accounts that somebody claims to have seen the Bigfoot or encountered the Bigfoot. Or they might be a fictitious accounting story because like again, it's on Reddit No Sleep, it's on other sites other than this Bigfoot encounter website, and even that encounter website says we do not define or we do not like account for the veracity of these accounts. So like basically take it with a grain of salt whether or not this is true or not.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're tackling it as a story, not as like I mean I want to believe that Bigfoot exists. And the story is very harrowing. So but let's dive into it first and foremost. So our author and narrator, which I suppose in this instance I'm just going to call Baker, has a dad who ran wood mills up and down the West Coast from Oregon to Alaska. Wow.
I love Alaska.
Alabaska. Up and down the western coast of the United States from Oregon to Alaska for most of his life. In the 1960s, in Washington and Oregon, like somewhere in Washington, Oregon, around Copalis Beach, a man he worked with and generally trusted, John, came to work very late one Monday and with quite a story from over the weekend. It seemed his house had been heavily damaged by a Bigfoot-like creature that emerged from the nearby woods and threatened his family. His young son, Tim, was the first to sight the creature, calling it the Cowman, hence why we get the titular Cowman of the story. And the reason why he called it that was because of how hairy it was and how smelly it was. Like it smelled like a cow. His eldest son, John Jr., had also seen... John Jr., no, that's John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. Thank you.
It's a joke.
I know. I get it.
Okay.
But yeah, John Jr. also has an experience with this creature or this person, as there's somebody or something following him in the woods alongside the road as he's walking home from like that same day. It was the encounter was enough for so when John got home, or sorry, John Sr. got home, him and Jr. headed out into the woods with a gun to investigate. They found strange fur on the fence where Tim had spotted the creature getting caught on the fencing. And while in the woods, they heard something following them. It was getting dark, and John told Jr. to run home as he confronted the source of the footfalls. At first, he saw a four-legged creature rummaging through the woods, but then it became a two-legged creature as it got up, and drew nearer. And then the creature began speeding off toward the fleeing sun, as in John Jr., not the setting sun. The fleeing sun, after being confronted by John Sr. And for some reason, I really wanted to say John Cena. No. Now John is being played by John Cena.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Anyway,
in the movie adaptation. Yes,
exactly. Despite gunshot warnings, the creature raced through the family field, knocks away Junior like 10 feet in the air, just like body checks him effectively. And then circles back into the woods. Junior is stunned, but not severely harmed in any way by the attack. That evening, the family hears strange noises, and in the morning, Tim reveals that he was talking to the creature from his window. But it talks funny, like it was like almost doing like monkey noises. John decides that his family should visit his brother over in Elma, and like for the day. And in the meantime, he recruits one of his workers from the mill to help him sniff out what the hell is skulking around his property and bugging his family. They find deliberate signs of trespassing, like the creature wanted to be known that it was there, because it seemed to have placed a perfect footprint in a patch of mud, like right below the window of Tim's bedroom. And even like smeared, like got a bunch of like raked some mud from the ground and like smeared it all over the window. They also discover that their 2 pigs on the farm are now missing without a trace. There's no disturbance of like the fencing or like the little barn section where the pigs are. They're just gone. It also seemed that when this thing is around, John noticed that the local wildlife, like the frogs and the crickets and like birds and stuff like that, would remain silent. Because during the first encounter, it was dead silent in the woods. But then as he and Patrick, the worker, were roaming around the woods looking for this creature, there was a cacophony of noise from all the local wildlife, and that always seemed to go missing when the creature was around. And yeah, aside from broken trees and more footprints in the woods, they find nothing of the creature. So the family returns later that day, and John decides to watch over the house while his family sleeps in a single bed in the main bedroom. His wife wielding a shotgun, waiting in case the creature like tries to attack the family. That night, the creature stalked into the barn, and John nervously trails after it, but finds nothing, save for a terrible feeling that the creature may be up in the hayloft waiting for him to leave the barn and like ambush down on him. However, that notion is completely cut off as he hears the sound of a shotgun and screaming from his wife, who has shot the creature. And there's a horrible sound from the creature as it flees back into the woods. They all get into the car and flee back to John's brother and stay there till Monday morning, when John and his brother found return. They eventually return to the house that morning and find it ravaged by some kind of creature or some kind of very big and powerful thing. Like the TV, the giant TV has been like thrown across the room. The couch is ripped apart. The children's bedrooms are apparently untouched, as is the bathroom. But the main bedroom that like they were all sleeping in, the bed is completely just torn up and destroyed. Like the pillows are all shredded, and there's it's just like the kitchen has been ransacked. It's just devastated. He relays all of this to Baker's dad, as the reason for being late that Monday, and the dad too goes and visits John's house to check and sees the devastation for himself, and like even sees the fur that John has, and so this really got the family spooked about like returning to this house, to the point where eventually Baker's old man helps them move out of Copalis Beach and over to Aberdeen, Washington, which is where he had some of his mills and stuff. Time goes by. They lose contact with the family in the 80s, and the story basically just kind of remained among a small group of people until it was told to S.D. Baker, which is where we are getting to read it now from, as they share it online. No other instances around the property, as far as they could tell, were ever reported of this creature. So it's sort of there's a little bit of a bit at the end where like he's there. The SD Baker is analyzing like the story or kind of observing the story, and like it seems like the creature seemed to have a fondness for Tim, though it may have been like maybe like almost like a maternal sort of thing, like maybe like because in some Bigfoot stories there are accounts of the Bigfoot being almost like a motherly creature that is looking for an offspring. So it was like trying to take the child, but that's just some kind of offhanded comments that SD Baker leaves at the end of the story, and that's basically the story. It sort of ends off there. It was like this is one of the most interesting encounters my dad ever really had of Bigfoot. He's had other ones, but they weren't nearly as voracious as this one. So, but yeah, that was the account of the Cowman of Copalis Beach. So, I suppose we will move on to everyone tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions at this point, and by God, do I have some. Because this is a story, damn it, and we're gonna criticize it for its grammar.
Is what we do.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna start with these ones here. He never seen who it was. They never left the woods, but he said it had to be a really big man. So this one might just be like, again, the American dialect sort of thing, but I really feel like it should be he never saw who it was. Though it does add a little bit of flavor and color by having he never seen who it was.
Maybe.
Again, it's that whole like
everything has to have a southern drawl now.
Well, I mean, it is in America.
And all Americans talk like that.
Not all, but some. Hi, Adam. No. I know he's listening.
Of course he is. Why wouldn't he be?
Yes. So my next one here. Once he got to the driveway of their house where the woods stopped at the field where his brother had his sighting, the footsteps stopped and John Jr. never saw anything. All right, so this isn't really too run on, but I do feel like there should be another comma in that sentence. So there's like a comma at had his sighting, comma, the footsteps stopped and John Jr. never saw anything. I really feel there should be another comma. So it's like once he got to the driveway of their house where the woods stopped, comma, at the field where his brother had his sighting, comma, the footsteps stopped and Junior never saw anything. Just like a small thing, just to kind of like, I don't know, it felt like really kind of like run on like at that part where it was like he got to the driveway of their house where the woods stopped at the field where where his brother had his sighting, and then it's just like it seemed like it just kept going with like little details, and it just, I don't know, it felt like kind of like a need to like have a break somewhere in there. But I digress. I will move on. John stood there in shock, his gun temporarily forgotten, and then he realized it was heading toward the house, the way his son had went. All right, so I think it's supposed to say temporarily, not unless, of course, the gun has time powers. Because it does, yeah, it is a typo, I think, for temporarily. And also at the end of that sentence, it was heading towards the house the way his son had went. I think the went should be gone, like the way his son had gone. Again, that might just be a nitpick or something, but it just seemed incorrect.
Sounds smoother your way.
Yeah, it seemed a little clunky there. But my next one here, he burst into the clearing and looked frantically about for his son. So frantically is spelled wrong. It's frantic and then ly, when it should be frantic and then ALLY.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next one here, Patrick didn't really believe him, but could see he was sincere and still shook up. So this might be some Mike E territory. but I think it should say, but could see John was sincere and still shook up. Just to clarify who was sincere, because like there's a lot of like Patrick didn't really believe him, but could see he was sincere and still in shock. Like I feel like there's like instead of that he, it should be John, just so it's like clear that John is the one being sincere. I know. Hey,
there's only two people
time.
in this conversation.
I know, but and it's a little bit of a nitpick. Weird. I'm in the nitpick nook right now.
that is
lounging. But it seems like, to me, I really felt like there should have been some clarification, just because like I kind of hiccuped. It's like, this could be misconstrued as like Patrick talking to himself.
Sure.
And then this is another case of like a little bit of clarity here. They entered on the same trail that John and John had used the day before. John showed Patrick the broken fence wire and told him about the hair. I feel like it should say John and John Jr. or even just say John and Jr. Instead of unless it's trying to be funny, it was like the same trail John and John had used because the older John and the younger John.
They are both John.
Mm-hmm. JJ.
But I agree.
Yeah. And then the next one here. She knew there were no trees close enough to cast a shadow. She told to get away from the window. So I think it actually, like after it says like she knew that there wasn't a tree there to cast a shadow, and then after that comma, I think it should be, so she told her boy to get away from the window. Just like that's how I'd fix that sentence so that it doesn't like read she told to get away from the window. Like it's just sort of like janky and cut up a little bit.
Yeah, there's no target of her request.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next one here, she started forward to grab Tim, and there was an explosion of breaking glass. So forward is spelled wrong. It literally like if you it basically is it looks like the compound version of for and word, as in like WORD, when it should be FORWARD.
Forward.
Mm-hmm. Forward.
Should that be the tagline of the grammar acquisitions?
Oh, it should. Forward! Yeah, forward! God damn it. It's like, Viva la word!
Jeez.
That's when the grammar acquisition is being switched over to the grammar revolution.
Yeah, there you go.
Viva la word! Anyway.
It's just like, instead of like a fist that's being like held up, it's just like a dictionary.
Yeah. Do we want to do that? Like, do we want to have a change in the title of the format or of our show?
I don't know.
Do we want to have this evolution? Because we went from like grammar Nazism to grammar Inquisition, and then we're now moving to the grammar revolution.
I don't know. We'll speak with the higher ups.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk to future me
and see.
Yeah, we'll talk to past me and future me.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on. They had left the front door open in their haste to leave, and he was afraid animals or vandals would have got into the house. Okay, so for some reason, got kind of like bugged me.
Mm-hmm.
So, is gotten a real word, like GOTTEN? Like,
yeah, I believe so.
Okay,
sure.
Because that's how what I would have inserted in there. I would have added an extra. I would have added a 10 to that got. To fix that, but just because it's like, yeah, it's like, and he was afraid animals or vandals would have gotten into the house. Like,
yep.
Would have gotten the house, would have gotten in the house. I don't think there's really a difference, honestly.
Yeah, I like got in.
I like gotten better.
Actually, would have got in the house, not got into the house. The into is I think the issue that I'm having with got. This is super serial, guys.
But then it would have been gotten into compared to got into.
Got into really bugged me for some reason. I don't know why. But
For the record, I
regardless-
prefer gotten as well,
okay.
so I'm not fighting you.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not like I'm just saying like I think if you wanted to keep the got, maybe just get rid of like switch into to just in. Would have got in the house. That also I think would have been better. But I digress. If it was just an elaborate story, what did he stand to gain? So I think we need an it in there. So
Yep.
if it was just an elaborate story. And then my last one for grammar acquisition, I asked him if thought there might be two creatures involved, considering the incident in the barn. So I feel like it should be. I asked him if he thought there might be two creatures involved. That's just needs to have like like something in between if and thought. And that's my grammar acquisition. So Mikey, he stands for evil.
Okay. My first one here is caused by saying the same word again relatively close together.
Mhm.
So the sentences go, he is an intelligent man and holds over a dozen patents for various pieces of equipment he has designed and built over the years. He has employed dozens of people over the years, all of them spending extensive time in the wilderness. So the second over the years doesn't really need to be there
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the fact that he has employed dozens of people, like it's all past tense anyway, so
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I'd be fine with the over the years being removed there.
Mhm.
It doesn't bug me none. So
So the next one needs a the in it. So
Actually, before you continue, can I suggest a possible replacement for a second over the years
sure.
through his career?
bam. Yeah.
Just so it hammers down that we're still talking about his job as a whole,
But
not just like
eating.
any specific moment. Like he's not saying that he has dozens of people working for him right now specifically. Just over the years, he is, or sorry, through his career,
Yeah.
he has gone through dozens of people.
Okay, yeah, that makes that nice.
Okay.
Well done.
Yeah, I did a thing.
I'm clapping, but you can't really tell over my microphone.
Yeah, sure, I'll believe you.
I was. It was that pity clap that or the golf clap that the Estevezes give in that one GIF. But
Cool, that makes me feel a lot better. I'd prefer no clap,
wow,
to be honest. Yes, please continue.
trying to compliment you and you just shit all over me. God damn it.
So the next one, like I said, it needs a the, and the quote is, "She told Tim to come inside to play for rest of the day. She felt uneasy and a little scared." So the goes here. She told Tim to come inside to play for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And I also did a quick search, and there's no game called Forest of the Day.
God damn it.
Okay. That's one way to do your Googling.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there was a game called Forest of the Day, then she could have told Tim to come inside and play Forest of the Day.
Clearly.
This is true.
Do you thrive on my size? Do you get sustenance from the size I give?
Oh, okay, not S-I-Z-E.
God damn it. God damn it.
God damn, I hate the English language. Also, yes, I believe he does.
Yeah.
It's a prerequisite for every recording.
Yep. He has to get
All
one more. He has to get one in there, otherwise he loses his devilness.
For every sigh that he causes, he gets another like planet in his in his being,
Yes,
another star.
but continue, Mikey.
It's like every time that Morgan Freeman tells the backstory that's going on in a story, he gets another freckle.
Yes, clearly, exactly.
And that's my South Park reference for the day. Here we go.
Yep.
right. So the next quote here, I feel it doesn't need the word "out." So the quote is, "As they began walking back out, they could hear heavy footsteps off to their left." So the way to fix it is to either remove "out" or replace it with "home." So as they began walking back, they could hear heavy footsteps off to their left, or
But where are
as
they
they
right
began
now?
walking back home. Well, they're already out, so they're they were basically already out looking for, I believe, traces of the creature.
Yeah, they were out in the woods on one of the little like game trails.
Oh, is this when it was getting dark, so they decided to go home?
Yeah.
Then yeah, you're right. Unless "out" is referring to out of the woods.
I thought that's what it was. Honestly, that's what I thought it was getting at, was that they were trying to get out of the woods. Out of the woods.
Yeah,
Out
but
of the woods. Sorry.
then clarify that. So as they began walking back out of the woods.
Bam. Done. Mic drop.
All right. And the next one I have is a sentence that ends with a word, and then the next sentence begins with the same word.
I hate that. Surprised I didn't notice that.
By this time, Patrick was fast becoming convinced something strange had indeed happened the night before. Before going out into the woods, John wanted to feed the family's pigs.
Yeah. Maybe the end before should be prior, like the night prior.
Yeah, or last night.
Yeah, that would also work. Yeah. Because before could also like having the before at the end and the beginning, like it almost like as if it's trying to bridge the two sentence subjects. Like it's like, so it's almost like to me I could see somebody construing it as being believe the stuff that happened the night before as in the night before John wanted to check on his pigs.
That
What?
second before is also the start of a new paragraph.
Yes. So, yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's something you want to avoid.
Mhm.
Even if it is the start of a new paragraph. So.
For sure.
Agreed.
All right. Let's see if you guys can figure out what's wrong with this sentence.
Uh-oh. Both worried.
He swore he could hear the floorboard softly creak above him as an enormous weight edged stealthily closer to the edge.
Well, it's a double-edged sentence.
Yeah, I mean, edge. It's using edge in two different versions of the word. Because
Yeah, like you
edging
can use
towards
edge before you roll or after you roll, and it changes the result.
God damn it, Shadowrun. Sorry, Mikey.
Sorry, Mikey.
But so like edging towards something is like cautiously moving towards something, but then edge also means the like a precipice.
Yeah. Maybe you should be saying like creeping.
Yeah.
You'd be saying creeping towards the edge, though.
Or skulking, or
No, it's not the movement we need to change. It's the location.
Yeah.
Because you're still skulking towards the edge.
Yeah. Or like edging towards the precipice of the hayloft.
Yeah. He's still getting one step closer to the edge. and he's probably about to break.
God damn it!
I'm just full of it today.
Yeah, you're on fire
It
tonight.
being shit, but that's fine.
You're literally on fire. That's also from that's my favorite line from "Kill the Chupacabra Tonight" by Darkest of the Hillside Thickets. there's
I don't know that, but I know the band.
There's a line where the guy's just like, "I'm on fire. I'm literally on fire. I am right now on fire." Like it's just, and then it cuts into like, "We're going to kill the Chupacabra tonight." I think what it meant. I think what, like the context in the song was like they used like some kind of some kind of fire tool or weapon against the Chupacabra, and one of them ended up on fire.
These things happen.
Yes, but yeah.
Okay, so back to the thing with
that's
fixing.
the wrong cryptid. Back to this cryptid story.
Back to the double edge.
Yes, and the double edge.
So how would you suggest fixing that, Mikey?
Well, interestingly enough, I didn't notice the double edge.
Oh, we found the wrong.
We both just jumped like feet first right into the double edgeness.
Yeah,
And that's not even what it was. I was so certain.
yeah, same. We both just got like impaled on the edge of that.
Damn it!
What's wrong with that sentence, Mikey?
Here is spelt wrong.
How would we know?
Wait, what?
How would we know?
Wait, hang on. What's spelled wrong?
Here.
Give me a second. I'm pulling that up. Hang on. There's no way I missed it.
Based
How did I
on
miss
you
that?
reading it, that there was a spelling issue.
Wait, yeah, hang on. That's unfair.
I was
You
listening
son of a
specifically to
bitch.
what you were saying.
God
You'd
damn
be
it.
like, "Oh, look, find this sentence and read along with me."
Hang on a second. Hang on. I'm pulling up that fucking. Where the fuck is it?
Which word is spelled incorrectly?
Fear is
Here.
spelled wrong.
No, here.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I kept hearing an F when you were
No.
saying that. Okay.
It's H-E-R-E.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on. I
Wrong
need
type
I
of
need to
hearing.
look this up. I need to take a look at this. Okay.
Just Control F edge.
I really should have. I'm already right there. So yeah. Here. How did I miss that? He swore he could hear the floorboards, and it's here as in H-E-R-E, not H-E-A-R. Reading that, you would immediately know that. How the fuck did I typo knees that?
Yeah.
God damn it. God damn it. Also, that was an unfair thing, Mikey, you did, but damn it.
It's
You're right.
fine. It made us find more things, and it was hilarious that we went on this huge tangent, and it wasn't even what he wanted.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay.
I'm the best at failing.
Guys, we're not even past the grammar inquisition yet.
Oh, yeah, right.
All
I
right.
still have to get to mine.
Yeah, I know. This is what our listeners come for, right? The
Yeah.
Inquisition.
There's at least
I hope.
one person who loves it.
Yes. Austin.
What a guy.
All right. So next, I have a conjunction junction.
Mhm.
That's mostly it.
All right. And next stop, Conjunction Junction. Doot, doot.
It was around 8 at night, and in the woods it was getting to be fairly dark. But as he got closer, he could hear it moving away from him, deeper into the wood. It was silent for a moment, and then he caught movement out of the corner of his eye and spun around to his right for a better look. It was about 15 feet away from him. It stood on 2 legs and turned its upper body to glare at John. It was enormous. He couldn't believe how bulky it was. It was too dark to make out many features, but its eyes seemed to glow a deep red, and he thought he could see teeth like it was curling its lips back. It stood for just a brief moment and then lunged ahead, pushing back on the tree with a tremendous force. It then disappeared into the deep brush with frightening speed, sounding like a bulldozer with no engine sounds. It crossed the 10-foot clearing and stepped over the fence in 2 strides, and was running through the field parallel to his son in a matter of seconds. It veered more sharply toward his son, and put on an enormous burst of speed. It would stretch out for a long time, and then end with a whoop whoop sound. It was coming from the woods opposite the house. It apparently spent quite a while talking and making faces outside the boy's window. It was so clear that he got the feeling it was left there on purpose. It was a bright summer morning, and John was surprised at the difference from the previous evening. And on the window itself were dozens of large, muddy fingerprints. It was as quiet as the inside of a mausoleum at night. He could hear the minute, shrill buzz of his own nervous system. It sounded pissed off and in pain.
That's a nasty nervous system. Sorry. Gotta get that checked, John. Sorry.
It screamed again, and he heard branches breaking as it plowed through the forest, thankfully away from the house. It jerked backwards out of the window and disappeared into the dark. And although the sex of the animal was never determined, it was referred to as a male because of the predatory stalking type behavior. And I guess that's better than a poke in the eye with a filthy encrusted hypodermic needle. Finn.
Okay. There's a couple of things here. There's a couple of things here. Mikey, I gotta compliment you on how you read sentences and stories and stuff like that. You give off very strong bedtime story vibes, like when you're reading. So, like that whole like when you read it, it's just very like, and then the princess was in the tower, and the knight had to say, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Like, you have a very, like, you give off very bedtime story reading vibes.
Mm-hmm.
When you read. So.
Okay.
Which is a compliment.
Yeah, it's a compliment. Take it. No, okay. Next thing. When you said whoop whoop, I started chuckling because every time I read that in the story, I get whoop whoop. With a little bit more like, sort of like almost like a police siren thing.
Oh, I thought you were going with a kind of like a Three Stooges, Curly spinning on the floor, going whoop 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 whoop.
Yeah. Also, the nervous system thing always got me. Even when I read it, I was like, that's an interesting way of saying that you can hear your heartbeat.
Yeah, really.
The other thing, and you kind of brought up right at the end there, like, so we have a lot of the its in the story are when it's referring to the creature, and I don't think that's I don't think that's necessarily a problem for having it as the being used because it's clearly being used for the creature. The problem is at the very end of the story, they say it's referred to as male the entire time. Meanwhile, they've been using a gender neutral descriptor whenever they reference the creature. Well, no, I'm not saying anything like, I'm not doing anything like that. I just mean like it, like they don't know through the story they used the gender neutral version, like it, but like it's clearly like it was clearly a he due to its stalking predatory nature, and so that's like you never really bring that up in the story. Like you never call it a he in the story at all.
Nothing's really clear one way or another, and also the way that I thought you were going to go with that is you're okay with them using it because they're using it as a reference to it being a monster.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing to do with its gender. It's just it's a creature of unknown origin, so they're just calling it it.
Yeah, and that's like for most of the story, that's like I was fine with having it there because it was describing a creature that they do not know anything about.
Yes.
So, but then they
however, there is a lot of it. Like at the start of that, you basically just read the entirety of that first encounter in the woods.
That's true. Yes. But again, like, what are they going to do? Like the creature, the beast, the monster, like they. Like I don't know, like there's a time, like I'm not saying you shouldn't use some kind of other descriptor words for the creature. I'm just saying like you shouldn't also do the same. You shouldn't just remove all the its there. I think there should be some of those its there, but you should also replace some of those with a descriptor of the monster.
I don't have a problem with the monster being referred to by it. It's just when all the sentences are starting with it, it gets repetitive.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's also like, yeah, I'm not saying like that it's not a problem. I'm just saying we shouldn't completely discount using it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Okay.
I do have one more point to bring up in regards to his story, his it story. When you got to the section where I guess chasing down the John Jr. and it says like it gets a burst of speed. And then right after that, you say it stretches out for a long while and ends with a whoop whoop. So I kind of imagine like he was chasing them, and all of a sudden he did like a Dulcim like stretch punch and just knocked the kid out and went whoop whoop. Like that's the sound of his arm going all Stretch Armstrong.
Or like for those anime fans out there, when in One Piece. When Luffy uses his stretchy stretch arms, he does like, what does he do? Gum arms. There's like, and like does like gum, and then like launches his arms like Stretch Armstrong.
Oh, okay.
That's just like whoop whoop. Just like it's his battle cry when he uses his like stretch arms.
Seems legit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. That's. Yeah.
That's an odd new power to add to Bigfoot.
Although it's, I mean,
Mr. Fantastic.
He's definitely had weirder powers. Big Feet have definitely had. They've got like time distortion powers and like spatial, like they can move through dimensions.
That's all stuff that you can't clearly see is
okay.
Fucked up
Yeah.
Weird magic.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like subtle magic compared to overt magic.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we talked about a few episodes ago.
Yeah. Yeah, the idiosyncratic magic.
Yeah, that's the word. I like idiot magic. That's my favorite. That's what it's called, right?
Idiot synchronized magic.
There you go. Synchronized idiots doing magic. That's my jam.
Well, love what you know. No.
Yep. What?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Moving right along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the end of my grammar position.
All right. Yes, I think there need to be more stories of Bigfoot with Stretch Armstrong.
Oh, I agree. Totally.
All right, Gamer.
My turn, finally. Well, the first one is basically just me being annoyed that I can't copy pasta this copy pasta to make notes.
Yeah,
I had to type things out. And that's the end of my grammar in yellow because you got everything else.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So full disclosure. So, on bigfootencounters.com/stories, the stories have a JavaScript that blocks you from text copying. Earlier, like yesterday, before we recorded, I discovered that this story was also carbon copied onto Reddit No Sleep. So that's how I kind of was able to get my quotes and stuff like that. And Mikey used some technical mumbo jumbo to make it work, or to get his quotes and stuff. So Gamer and Yellow kind of did it the hard way because the other two of us didn't tell him the workarounds.
Yeah, but that's fine. I really didn't have to type out too much, honestly.
Yeah. And again, I get why they put that on there because it is copyrighted to the author, and I'm not sure if the person who put it on Reddit No Sleep is in fact the same guy or same person. So, yeah, I don't condone it. I mean, if it is a copyrighted piece of material, you need to get permission to use it, or to just blatantly copy and paste it somewhere else, right? So, or at least credit the person who wrote the story.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's your Grammar Inquisition though.
Yup. I only had a couple in, literally 2. Plus me complaining that I can't copy and paste. That's all I had.
Okay. So, in that case, then we will move on to actual thoughts. And so I'm going to start with this. They came upon a large clump of long, reddish-brown hair tangled in the top strand of barbed wire. He tried to pull it off, but it was really tangled up. So he pulled out his buck knife and sawed it off. He said the hair was over a foot long, real coarse and stringy. God, I know this feeling. Like when you have old carpet threads or long hairs that get caught up in the whirling brushes of your vacuum, and all you can do in order to get them free is to pull out a pocket knife and cut them loose. So that because otherwise they just keep getting tangled. It's so goddamn annoying. Anyway,
yeah.
I for some reason that came to mind as soon as he pulled out a buck knife and started sawing out the hairs off of this barbed wire. I really familiarized with that to be having vacuuming and then getting fucking string and hair stuck in the brushes of the vacuum.
Mm.
It's a constant struggle in this household.
It is. One situation's a little bit more lethal than the other, though.
A little bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not much, though.
Then the next one here I have to comment on. They walked on nearly to the clearing, and John whispered to his son to run like hell to the house on the count of 3. John Jr. nodded, and John whispered, 1, 2, 3, and gave his son a push in the back to get him started. Then spun around and raced off the trail in the opposite direction, towards the footsteps with his gun drawn. Dang, John is a badass.
Hell yeah, he is.
Just it's pushing his son to go home, and then just facing America. That's my comment on that part. Moving on. He said it looked like a huge bear moving through the brush. He could only see bits of it through the dense ferns, but it was moving quietly away from the tree on 4 legs. It was about 15 feet away from him. At first he thought it was a bear, and then suddenly he saw a huge hairy arm with a human-like hand reach out of the brush and grab a small elder tree. The tree was about 4 inches in diameter. It grabbed hold about 5 feet up. He said it happened so fast it was a blur. But this thing pulled itself upright out of the brush by holding the tree. It stood on 2 legs and turned its upper body to glare at John. Okay, so I got a few things here from reading that little bit of paragraph. Earlier, we get a vague description from the child, Tim, about the Cowman, and how far it was away from them, because it's off across the field by the fencing and stuff like that. There's dark, coarse red-brown hair or fur on the barbed wire fence. A terrible stench that smells like wet dog and garbage. It's dark out when at a certain point in the story when the creature is actually seen, and it's on all 4s, and then it gets up on 2 legs with the aid of a tree. So details, as much as we're getting here, are still a tad sketchy as to full description of this creature. A lot of this, up until a point, was kind of just bringing me to the conclusion that this was in fact a large bear that they had seen.
Yeah.
Like it was really just being misconstrued as like they saw a bear that crossed over their fence line. Smells like garbage because bears have a musky smell and get into garbage and shit. And it goes on all fours and on two legs. Now, like bears can get up onto two legs and walk around. Certain bears anyway. So yeah, my at this point, up to a certain point, I was like, you guys are just. Is this story just going to be like, was it a bear or was it Bigfoot? I don't know.
You know what it actually was?
What?
So, it has bear-like qualities. It has man-like qualities.
Don't you do it.
It oinks.
Don't.
It squealed. It squealed at the kid in the story.
I'm so mad
it might
at you
be
right
it might be half man, half bear, and half pig.
I'm so mad at you right now. You get one South Park reference per episode, sir. You get one South Park episode per podcast.
How could I not? How could I not say this?
God damn it! I hate you so much.
Great.
As I'm laughing. Okay, skepticism aside and stupidness aside, looking at Gamer.
Yeah.
I do think it's actually kind of interesting that we get a Bigfoot account that has the creature rushing through the woods on all fours. Like you don't really, as far as I can tell, you don't really see that in many Bigfoot sightings. Like as from my perusing from my perusing in my cryptozoological youth, because I checked out a bunch of books. Again, I look at my bookshelf with a bunch of unexplained mystery books, and I did visit the mystery section of our local libraries as a kid, and pulled out all the Bigfoot books. And
so
it kind of
dude running.
Yeah, it's usually always just a guy just like striding, like either moving really fast on two legs, just like with like big old strides, or just like running. You never really see a Bigfoot on all fours, but it kind of makes sense if you're this big, bulky, furry creature in the North American woods trying to evade humanity. Using all fours as you're stealthing through the foliage gives you both a stealth and a stability option. Because like stealthy is like because somebody might just construe you as a bear.
Yeah.
If you're on all fours, and it also gives you stability because I mean there's a lot of roots and like and rocks and hills and stuff like that in the foliage. So, and again, like Bigfoot is supposed to be like an ancient predecessor to humanity in a lot of theories, and like very simian. So why, like, it makes sense that they would have kind of like the simian notion to kind of like when they need to move fast, they go on all fours like a gorilla. So yeah, I'm kind of interested like with this kind of development where the creature is on all fours and then jumps up on two legs when it needs to. Especially when in like a condensed forest sort of environment. But yeah, that's really my comments and stuff like that on the part of the four-legged Bigfoot. Damn you for your man bear pig reference. Damn you straight to hell.
I had to.
I know. You're obsessed with South Park.
You say that. I haven't seen it in years.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't have TV. It's not on Disney Plus.
God.
Imagine.
Well, I mean,
Disney's eventually going to own everything, so.
Yeah, true. Yeah, Simpsons is on Disney Plus now, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving right along. He talks funny.
He do.
I don't know what he said. He talks like this. Ooh, ah, ah, ooh.
So Christopher Walken.
Damn it, you beat me to it. Yeah, like ooh, ooh, ah, ah. My poker face, my poker face. Ooh,
I really didn't think you were gonna go there.
I wasn't, honestly. I just, as soon as I said it, I started chuckling because of that.
Okay.
You ooh, I want to be like you ooh, because he played an orangutan, King Louie in that Jungle Book live action movie.
Yeah.
It fits because it's a simian creature. So anyway, yeah, Tim said and started making strange monkey-like noises. So again, like kind of like getting kind of a more of like monkey-like or simian-like details about Bigfoot, which I'm not against, because he is supposed to be basically like a North American simian.
Mhm.
Anyway, again, in some theories, did the Cowman try to get into your window? John said, breaking out into a cold sweat. He's too big for that. He made funny faces. He has Lincoln logs for teeth. Tim said with a smile. John later learned Tim meant it had square teeth that looked like the same size as the small blocks in Lincoln log set, or in a Lincoln log set. It apparently spent quite a while talking, in quotes, and making faces outside the boy's window. Tim said it lay down and went to sleep outside, and he could hear it snoring. So at this point, this is starting to kind of give me a feel for like a Harry and the Hendersons like situation. Like, this has all been a misunderstanding. This creature's actually really friendly, and man is the true monster.
A little bit.
And I mean, some of that does kind of get a little bit deviated by the end of the story. But I mean, at the same time, the story is being told from the human's point of view. And as terrifying, yeah. And so as terrifying as things kind of get, especially near the like from the initial confrontation at the final confrontation sort of stuff, I'm kind of warming up to Cowman. Like, kind of giving me Harry vibes. I did immediately sit down and watch Harry and the Hendersons after reading this story.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there are so many tales out there and accounts and encounters out there of Bigfoot having bouts of aggression when threatened, but then being rather peaceful and even playful with children. Like kids go like are out camping with their parents and stuff like that out in like a provincial forest, and then the kid comes back after going missing for a few hours and says that they were hanging out with a tall tree man who was hanging out with them. Like Bigfoot seems to have like this kind of like very peaceful side, and really only gets really aggressive when threatened, which again, gun drawn to you and like being threatened if you don't come out, like that's a threat. So Bigfoot just escalates. Like he just it's a survival mechanism. You get bigger, like so to try and scare off your would be predator. The predator being humans. In this case. No, don't.
The Predator. You said exactly. I watched Predator last night.
Nice.
Predator. Now, it was Predators actually.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
That was a good movie.
I mean, kind of. I mean, it's fun, dumb movie, but like, I don't know.
It's like a different retelling of the original.
Yeah, I don't know. This isn't al dente real talk.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, don't get me wrong. Were I John, I too would be very worried for my family. Again, given what the creature had just done to to John Jr. Like ran through the field, beelined for my kid, threw him like 10 feet in the air, and then doubled back. I mean, it just seemed like it was basically like a warning shot. But I'd still feel defensive about like my family, given what this creature is doing. Even though this creature is probably just giving doing warnings, like giving warnings like don't fuck with me, humans.
Yeah, he might have done that because John fired a shot into the ground and scared him.
Exactly. He's like, all right, fuck. All right, I'll warn you too, buddy. Mm-hmm. This won't kill your son.
Probably.
And then notice that he does that, and then immediately like circles back to the woods. And yeah, it seems to have formed a bond with little Tim. Like talking with him and like playing with him by the window. So like maybe it was trying to grab Tim and like take him away, or maybe it was just being playful and just wanted like a friend. Like again, humanity is the true monster in most of these stories. We are encroaching on their on their turf. So, but I digress. Moving on. Actually, you know what? This is also my next comment. Is kind of backing up more of my idea of this thing just giving like warnings. So This is the quote. There was a patch of ground worn bare of grass under it, and it had turned to mud. In the center of the mud, there was a huge, clear imprint of what looked like a bare human foot. Fuck, I hate the English language because that sounds like a bare human, like a man bear
Yeah, because
pig.
we were just talking about man bear pigs.
God damn you. Anyway, John said it was at least 18 inches long and very wide. It was so clear that he got a feeling it was left here on purpose. So again, kind of case in point to my previous thing of like warning signs. Like, Cowman's just saying, don't fuck with me, John. Like, I'm here. Like, so I wonder how much of the story is going to be revealed that the house destruction was on John and Patrick provoking this creature or escalating matters. And really, I kind of think that it didn't quite go that route after I made this comment. Because it wasn't really John or Patrick that provoked it into escalating matters. It was actually the wife. By, shooting it through the window.
I mean, yeah, but if he didn't suggest that his wife took the gun...
Oh, that's true, yeah. Well, the wife wanted the gun for safety.
Yeah, and also the creature wouldn't have attacked the son if they didn't go out there and he didn't shoot at it and stuff. He didn't chase it down. And I mean, it is kind of his fault.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bigfoot did like break through the window as if to grab Tim, but honestly, like that only happened because the mother started speaking and started agitating the Bigfoot, and then the brother spoke louder, thus even provoking, like kind of like probably shocking or surprising the Bigfoot. And so it might have just like been like breaking through the window to grab the kid for safety, like thinking he was in danger.
Yeah, it's possible.
So it was like, again, it's sort of like there's two sides to the story but we're only getting the human side because the Bigfoot can't write down a story. I would love to see like if somebody wrote found a story that was like told from the Bigfoot's perspective. That would be so fucking cool.
Or even told through the Bigfoot's perspective in a way, but maybe there's a researcher or something that also gets the friendly sort of connection that Timmy did with the creature.
There actually is.
Is there?
There's a Bigfoot account from like an early time, and it's not like exactly like I think it would be interesting for a kid who had gotten lost with it from his parents and gotten like kind of adopted by a Bigfoot clan in one of like the woods or something like that for some time, and then came back to humanity. And told the story. It does sound like a Disney movie, but I mean, there is actually a similar story where like a hunter was out in like the British Columbian ward of like mountains, and got taken by a Bigfoot after his camp was attacked. And basically they took him in because he was injured, and he sort of tells the story a little bit more on like a threatening scale, even though like they kind of like nursed him a little bit back to health and like kind of brought him into their fold, like their little family. And he escaped by giving them tobacco and having them like get sick from the tobacco. So it's a bit of a kind of like a mix between like the normal stories that we get for Bigfoot, like kind of a little bit of like the Bigfoot has family groups, and they keep like if somebody is injured, they'll actually take care of them, but like. Yeah, it was definitely like an adult person dealing with it, and like so you kind of get a little bit more of like the taintedness of like an adult kind of freaking out because it's something weird, whereas a kid doesn't have that kind of like those inhibitions, don't have those fears that an adult gets. So
you can only trust so much of what a kid is saying as well.
That's
they're
true,
not necessarily seeing it clearly.
Yeah, there's sort of a flip side to naivete of a child.
Mm-hmm. There's probably an age level where it's like you're able to see it for what it is, but you're also naive enough that you go along with shit.
Yeah, I feel like a teen would probably like be an okay age group for like if in this instance for like a story where somebody gets kidnapped by or gets helped or like stays with some big feet for a little while. And kind of like learns a little bit about them and how gentle they are. Again, getting a Harry and the Henderson sort of vibe.
Yes.
Oh, Harry. But okay, I'll move on.
Did you cry when he slapped him again?
Yeah, it was sad.
Yeah.
I also always get really like excited when the big feet start coming out. Spoilers for Harry and the Hendersons, I think at this point a 30-year-old movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, where like Harry goes back into the woods for the final time, and then like his family just kind of like comes out of the woodwork, literally, like they just turn around and just like start following him, and including the little one that was like camouflaged as a stump.
Yeah.
It's
They're
so
very, very
fucking.
sweet.
It's so like that. That almost made me cry right there. It's like, oh. Again, I love Bigfoot stories and Bigfoot in general. It's a cool creature.
Mhm.
But moving on.
Before you move on,
Oh, okay.
did you know Lincoln Logs were a thing?
Yeah.
Back to the actual quote you
They
brought
are
up.
they're actually like were one of the most popular American toys.
I've
In
never
history.
heard of them before this.
Really?
Story. No.
They're one of the simplest and earliest toys that that a kid has, because they're just like building blocks basically.
Yeah, but specifically for making log cabins.
Yeah.
It's like Legos without the flexibility of being able to make whatever you want.
Yeah, like before Lego, Lincoln Logs were king.
Oh.
Yeah. In the Americans anyway. In the Americas anyways.
Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And then we get to this quote here. Patrick had retrieved a pint of booze from his car and was well on his way to getting smashed. So before this, we do find out that Patrick was an ex-patrolman, and he actually got laid off or fired because of his drinking problem. So but John assures everybody he never drank while on the job. So he and only drank after hours. So he was trustworthy during the day. But anyways, going back to the quote, John decided he didn't want a frightened drunk with a gun around his family, so he suggested Patrick go home. Nothing was going to happen anyway. Patrick agreed and drove off, and John continued to watch the woods. The 1960s, ladies and gentlemen. A simpler time and a stupider time when it came to drinking and driving.
Right. He was drunk and he just went and drove
Yep.
home.
I mean, like, I've heard stories from my old man and from my grandparents and my uncles from when, like, back in the 60s and 50s and stuff like that, like before seatbelts and shit, and like they would drive over to the bar and then drive back to the cottages and stuff like that. Like, it was a thing that happened that people did back in those days. It was stupid. They admit it was stupid now, but it's like, man, we were stupid in earlier decades.
It was a simpler time.
And I mean, to be fair, we're stupider now. We're just stupid in different ways.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and yeah, when Patrick's alcoholism kind of came up earlier in the story, I immediately thought it might play in more into the story. It doesn't, but it could have. It's kind of like a red herring, almost in a way. Like it was
because there still isn't a outside party that's witnessed it. It's just the family.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was a potential. It was an interesting detail that was added, even though it really didn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the 1960s, people drank and drive all the time.
Mm-hmm. For me on that quote, my problem with it is, like he says, like, you might as well go home because you're drunk. Nothing's going to happen anyways. Like, says you. I wouldn't even begin to feel safe until you get through a night without an attack.
Well, yes, but he also doesn't want this guy who's drunk, like off his rocker, with a gun near his family. So I kind of understand why he didn't want Patrick around.
Right, so he probably just made up nothing's probably going to happen anyways, just to get him to go home without question.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, you're right. Because, yes, you're also right, because if he actually thought nothing was going to happen, he wouldn't be sitting out all night with a gun.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So he decided to man up and stuff like that. Also, like, this, like, not going, the story, I didn't bring it up in my notes. I don't have it in my notes, but I just bring it up now. Like, he doesn't call the cops because he thinks, like, what am I going to say? Bigfoot attacked my house? Like, what am I, like, I'm going to be fucking laughed at. It's not like a Derplin level, like a Derplin sort of, like, stupidity. It's actually, like, a pretty, like, honest reaction that somebody would have. Why not? No, like, legitimately, if you fucking look what happened to George in Harry and the Hendersons when he called the cops about Bigfoot in his house.
But that's the thing. What everyone does in those situations is they tell the honest truth that there's a Bigfoot in my house. Of course, people are going to say you're an idiot. So what
Yeah.
you say is, there's a giant bear that's attacking my family.
I would love to hear that story, but again, I can understand the concern that he has, and I could also fault him for not thinking up a different story, because if John is an honest man, he's thinking is like, I can't just like fucking make this up. Like I and this is also the 1960s. There's a little bit more machismo, sort of toxic masculinity kind of going on in the world.
I guess, but like,
yeah.
there's already been the thought in his head because not that he thought it, but his son basically said, like, what hit me? Was it a big bear? Like, that idea of it being a big bear was already in his head and set up earlier. So it could have been followed through here. And then if he said, like, there's a big bear that attacked, then at least someone that's coming to help is coming with stuff that would be adequate for dealing with a large bear.
That's fair.
Large, vicious bear.
Perhaps, and again, it is in Washington State or Oregon. Like, bears are a thing there. Grizzlies are a thing there, which are the big bears. Yeah, I get you. I would love to see a story where they actually take that route, but I don't fault John for not going that route. Because it is, again, an earlier time. It's also like a time where like people were skeptic or didn't want to be called crazy, or people wanted to defend had pride and didn't want to like defend, or didn't want to like cower away from defending their family alone. Like that kind of shit happened. That shit happens now.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not giving the story shit for it. It's just that would be an option.
Yeah, I'm not calling this Derpland, but it is an option. But yeah, moving on. Like I wanted to bring that up because we were starting to talk about like the idiocies and stuff like that about like Patrick and his alcoholism and driving and stuff.
Yeah.
And then leaving or being told to leave because nothing's going to happen. Okay, so we get to this scene here. She had grown up hunting and knew this is John's wife, and knew how to handle a gun as good as him. So she insisted on keeping a shotgun in the room with them. So yeah, she was the one that asked for the shotgun.
Yes.
He agreed after making her promise to ask for a name before shooting anything. If it replied John, please don't shoot. Okay, I kind of like this is a little bit of dark humor amidst this otherwise pretty serious account of a man defending his home from a strange creature. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate it. We get little bits of like kind of humor in the story, especially by the very end, like the needle in the eye kind of thing. But like in the actual story itself, like, this was a nice little like kind of cut of dark humor amidst a harrowing instance. I at least appreciated it. And
the thing with that
Yep.
is like, I thought you were going to go slightly different with it, the way I went with it. Like, okay, that's cool that was said. However, what if there's gunshots and then Steve, their next door neighbor, comes by to see what's going on, knocks on the door, and like hears bad shit happenings and goes upstairs, and she goes, "Who's there?" And it's like, Steve.
Well, do you notice? Do you
Your name
recall
isn't John.
Yeah. I mean, okay, let's be fair. You know what he meant, or what he meant when if he says John, if it replies John, don't shoot. It means if it replies in human language, don't fucking shoot. Like, but also, do you recall
she might
in the
be
story?
Taking it literally.
Hang on. Do you recall in the story when he does rush into the house and clicks the door open, the shotgun is immediately raised toward him, and she doesn't say anything. He just ducks down. It's like, whoop.
Yeah, he doesn't even follow his own suggestion,
and doesn't even. And they do not hear. Like, she does not ask the question, and he just waits for the shot to go off. That never comes.
Yeah, he doesn't even say it's John. It's John.
Yeah. So yeah, as soon as that happens, like, wow, way to like break your rule already or your promise already. But yeah, no, I do. Yeah, it's yeah. All right, moving on to my second last, I believe. For whatever reason, this critter seemed focused on their 4-year-old son. Their son was the only one who never showed any fear of it. He seemed to think of it as his friend. And although the sex of the animal was never determined, it was referred to as a male because of the predatory stalking type behavior. That and the copious lack of breasts. Or perhaps it was just not as well endowed as the Patterson film subject. Anyhow, its behavior almost seemed indicative of a mother that has lost her little Bigfoot and is looking for a replacement. I literally had to stop at anyway when I first read this, just because of how awkward silly the previous sentence kind of read. Just like, with the copious amounts of breasts, or copious lack of breasts, or maybe it just wasn't as well endowed as the Patterson film subject. Anyhow.
He's like, anyway, I know that was weird. Let's get back to the story.
Now, yeah, that's a fun fact. The famous Patterson film, like the footage of like everyone knows of like the Bigfoot striding and like through like past a creek and like looking back as it walks. Yeah, that is actually supposed to, like, there's a lot of theories and like a lot of like speculation, so that kind of points to that was a female Bigfoot. And there's also been tons of Bigfoot stories of like a Bigfoot kind of being very maternal towards little children. So, in fact, I think one of the early like the earliest legends of the Sasquatch from the Native American legends. Again, my Bigfootology is a little rusty, but I believe it, like that creature was supposed to be a mother figure. Now, I think it was a mother figure that ate its child in the stories, cool. But it was still a mother figure. So, again, I'm a little rusty on my Bigfoot knowledge, but I'm pretty sure that was like there's something in the original legends of the Sasquatch that it was a mother-like figure. So, yeah, it was just again the awkward, silly sort of comment of like lack of breasts and the maybe it wasn't as well endowed as the Patterson film creature. Anyway,
I found there was a weird blend between the two subjects of that mini paragraph, because the first one is talking about how the son like was never scared of it and all that and thinks of it as its friend, and then all of a sudden it starts talking about the gender of the animal.
Well, because it started talking about like because it was kind of acting rather like to some, I guess to this person's viewpoint, it was kind of acting almost like kind of maternal towards Tim.
Yeah.
And it even goes on to comment about like, was Tim maybe a hybrid, like a human Bigfoot hybrid or something? Like, was he a little bit more hairy than usual? It's like, no, he was a regular boy. And like his dad just like shut that down, thankfully. It's like, no, you're stupid, son. Stupid, Baker. Like, why would you say that? Like, it's just dumb. But yeah, so it's just like, yeah, it was just sort of like, I will say the ending of it, like the ending, like observation is a little weird after like the rest of the story, because like the rest of the story is pretty harrowing and like serious, and then we get these like kind of almost silly little like observations by the author and narrator. It's just like, all right, you know what? Save that for our show. Like, we're the ones that do critically silly observations of stories when they're trying to be serious.
The story does it so we don't have to, though.
Exactly, yeah. Well, then what are we doing here?
Right. I'm going to go home.
You're already home.
Ah, shit.
All right. And my last actual thought stuff.
Before this thought leaves my head, though, because I didn't have this written down.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about human big feet hybrids.
Yes.
Hobbits.
Son of a bitch.
They're hairy and they got big feet.
Tolkien was a prophet.
Damn right. Okay, please continue.
Yes. Why are they so small then?
It's just a problem that happened in the hybrid process.
Yeah, that's it. Oh man, you're gonna make me want to run a D&D game now about like halflings being hybrid hybrid human Bigfoot hybrids.
There's a lot of hybriding.
I know. Anyway, so in the end, I was left with no leads to follow, no new evidence of anything, but I did come away with a pretty damn good story. And I guess that's better than a poke in the eye with a filthy encrusted hypodermic needle. Those of you who actually read this far, I give you a big thumbs up. You are truly an ardent and stoic follower of all things Bigfoot. Or, like me, recently underemployed and in desperate need to fill the endless empty hours of your life. Hey! Not wrong, Hey, that's a little bit
The
of a low blow.
feels.
A little bit of a low blow, man.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Yeah,
shitting on you right at the end.
yeah, it's kind of also that this little injection of humor at the end. I said it earlier, like is a little bit of a it's of the sign off is it sort of caps it off. I don't kind of nicely, but also kind of like weirdly. I don't know. I don't. I have a complicated way of like feeling about this, like this ending of this story, where like with this injection of humor.
Mhm.
But
I
yeah,
found the wording of the needle thing a little unnecessary.
it's so like detailed. It's like,
Yeah,
and I guess
like
it's
why not just
better than
better than a sharp stick to the eye?
exactly. Yeah. Um. Yeah, it's so weird and like odd. like, um. And yeah, like I kind of get it. Like the ending comment is like as much as it's a little bit of a low blow because I literally was reading this. I read I read a lot of my creepypastas like during my off hours, like or during my my downtime and stuff. So it's like, hey man, but like that's also what a lot of people do when they read creepypastas and creepy Bigfoot sighting stories online because like that's a whole thing online is people like reading cryptid sightings and stuff. So. Um, yeah, it sort of like fits the bill, but it's also kind of a low blow. But yeah, that's my actual thoughts. So, Mikey, D stands for evil.
I'm gonna take it back a moment to the whole end here, where it says it was referred to as a male because of its predatory stalking type behavior, and then the behavior was also seemed indicative of a mother who lost her little Bigfoot.
Yeah,
And it's
a
like, well,
little.
like you're saying it's one, but it also has traits of both, and it was called it.
Yeah, it was called it. You describe it as being a he because of its stockish like nature and so that, but then it also has maternal things. So it's like you're really just completely contradicting yourself on what this creature is. And I guess again, that's kind of the nature of Bigfoot. We don't know what the fuck it is really. Like, is it North American like the North American simian creature like life form? Is it some kind of interdimensional spirit creature? Is it a nature spirit? Is it an alien? Is it a primitive humanity, a primitive human species? We don't know. But yeah, it is very contradictory through the story of what of how like the way it's described throughout the story.
So, my first actual thought is just based on preconceived ideas. So, based on the title alone with Cowman,
Oh no.
my mind immediately went to the Cowman enemy that is in the Forest video game.
Oh shit.
Um,
Okay. Yeah, that survival horror
Yeah.
kind of game.
yeah, and the commonality between the two is that it has loud footsteps, so you
Yeah.
can hear it before you see it. And it's big.
And has horns, I assume.
No,
Or wait, really?
no, and
Okay.
the other thing is that it doesn't have any body hair.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Oh god, that's weird looking.
I need to look this up now because I was like, wait, so did they just like bore like because it seems like the Cowman of Copalis Beach, like the story is pretty popular online. So I was like wondering, is like maybe the forest just like took that idea. Hang on, what is it called? The what is it called in the forest?
Cowman.
Oh,
Just do a Google image search of
I-
the
I,
forest cowman.
I'm gonna read it.
It is
Oh
not
God!
what- yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can kind of see why they call it the Cowman because it almost looks like a fetus of a cow. And it does have those. Oh, okay, no, those aren't hooves. Those are. I thought
Probably just the fat.
Yeah, maybe. Also,
Oh, that's weird.
they call it armsy apparently as well.
nope. That's another different one that has multiple arms.
Oh God. Oh dear God, why? Why am I looking? I gotta turn this off. I'm getting nightmare fuel. I might have to check out the forest. No. Well, you're kind of also like I kind of had the same vein when I first started the story because I was expecting it to be like when it started describing like it's like a cow. Tim was like it's like a cow, man. No, when Tim describes the Cowman, like right before it like says like I was expecting it like to say like a cow, and I was like, so is he gonna say like it has horns and stuff like that? Because again, like goat men and like beast men like that, like the like antlered or horned humanoids are also kind of in the same sort of circle as Bigfoot in North America as like a cryptid. Like there's the Goatman Bridge down in Texas. There's like countless. There's actually a whole show of Bigfoot hunters that like half their episodes speak of like these horned or antlered humanoids that stalk in the mountain, like the Appalachian Mountains.
These deer guys.
Yeah, exactly. Deer Guy is also very similar. Like from our Beast Men in May or Beast Folk in May, sort of like episodes that we did way back. Beast Men are sort of a thing that follows Bigfoot stories online anyway. But then the reason why he called it the Cowman is because he was hairy and smelled like a cow. So,
but yeah, just to bring out the preconceived notion of what I had before going into this story.
Yeah, totally fair.
And it's just as creepy.
Yeah. Jesus.
All right. So my next note here. He would hear large sticks cracking, and the footsteps were very heavy. And then later, they could see large, faint impressions of footprints where the ground was soft. They followed the deer trail further into the woods and encountered nothing unusual. So, I feel like the monster should be making more of a trail or something that can be followed to find out where it's coming from.
Should it?
Should it? Because this is a creature that has evaded humanity for decades, if not centuries.
It might jump into the trees for all we know.
Yeah.
But the problem is it has really heavy footsteps.
Yeah. Maybe it was.
So,
maybe it was. Now it did leave that clear footprint in the mud over by the house. Maybe it was doing the heavier footfalls to make its presence known to the kid who was walking on the road.
Okay.
That's just a thought. Like it seems to be like stalking this family like purposefully in some aspects of the story.
Generally, it makes noise when it wants to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other issues, like it's making a lot of noise in the forest. There should be some sign in the forest that something was there, but they encountered nothing unusual.
It is weird that they didn't find it, like, because it wasn't until Patrick and John went out there that they found like the broken trees and more broken branches and trees and stuff like that further in. But at that point, the creature had like just gone in like a bulldozer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's weird.
Well, and maybe that's part of the point. Like maybe when John and Junior were out there, at that point it had been stealthily kind of evading them and just kind of leaving a few marks where it couldn't help it. Whereas it got a little bit more reckless when it was shot at and like getting more aggressive. Just a theory.
For some critically silliness.
Mm-hmm.
It then disappeared into the deep brush with frightening speed, sounding like a bulldozer with no engine sounds. So when it backs up, does it make a beep noise? Beep, 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 beep.
It's not a beep. Whoop, 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 Thank you. Exactly. Yeah, you beat me to it again. I was like, whoop, whoop.
The way I thought you were going to go with that is, how does a bulldozer make noise if the engine's off?
I hate you guys. Like, you know what it's metaphorical. It's plowing through the trees like a bulldozer.
Yeah.
God damn it!
I know.
Ugh. Like
I just thought
we're
that's
being-
where he was gonna go.
Yeah, I know, and I know we're being critically silly, but sometimes it's like really great. It's really
Yeah.
I can't help but be the straight man here, but like,
All right. And then my last action note here is that the monster is being forced from his native land by the timber industry
Mhm.
and is just trying to befriend a family to help stop the deforestation.
Yep.
And
Yep.
to make
Again,
some
like-
new friends.
yeah, and the family and most of the family's scared. Like it's a classic like humanity is the monster here.
Hmm.
What was that movie that I saw not recently, maybe a month or two ago, where it's basically the same thing? Where like, I think it was Dr. Dolittle 2, where there was like
Oh,
a
God.
bear. There was a bear that there's a
Oh
logging
my
company that was wanting to level an area, and there was this bear, and there was a friendly circus bear in town that Dr. Dolittle got to try to befriend the lady bear that was out there.
God damn it! See, I was thinking like there's that. Yes, there's the Eddie Murphy Doctor Dolittle 2. There's also that McDonald's movie that you could get instead of a Happy Meal thing called Goldilocks and the Three Bears, which is basically a retelling of Goldilocks and the Three Bears as a like environmental story.
Really?
Yeah, they it's like Goldilocks moves up when her mom dies. She moves to her estranged father's house, who's like he's like an very eco-friendly sort of guy who's lives out up in the wilderness in this small town, and she befriends a family of timber bears, a special magic like species of bear who are endangered species and are only in this one like forest, and they're like basically like the guardians of the forest. It's such a weird movie, but like you got it. Like it came out back in the '90s when when the McDonald's was like selling like a slew of like family films, that like had messages and stuff like that. Yeah,
and that's not any weirder than Burger King making Sneaking.
That's true. Yeah, but yeah,
You do know of Sneaking, don't you?
Of course.
Good.
Xbox 360 game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's like I don't even know if they were like if McDonald's the company actually made the game or like made the movies. They just like got the rights to distribute them. I think it was like I want to say it was like Touchstone or something like that maybe. I'm sure it's wrong. Future me. Goldilocks and the Three Bears, a 1995 Twin Dolphin filmed entertainment production, directed by Brent Lifke and starring Hannah Hall, Edward Asner, and Rita Rudner, among many. So, yeah, just as a point of order, it was not an estranged father, but Goldilocks' uncle after her parents died. So, 90s were weird. Anyway, maybe one day we should do the Al Dente Real Talk about that movie.
Maybe.
Because it's weird. Because like the bears have like magical powers, like hypnosis powers and shit like that, and like druidic like they can grow like trees with like pine cones and stuff.
Of course they can.
Like they like throw some pine cones down and like they like insta tree. Like they form they have like a bunch of like pine cones around one of the hunters or like the lumber people, and they all just like sink to the ground like super fast, and then immediately create like a pine cage around the guy.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. This is very much like the Bigfoot's just trying to like live their best life out in the woods, and we're just shitting all over it with our timber industry. So, did you have any more there, Mikey?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right. So anyway, gamer.
So my first one, in regards to his dad talking about his dad and his employment and all that, says that he's employed dozens of people over the years. Yes, we're going back to that. So doesn't he own a logging company that covers from Oregon all the way up to Alaska? One that's been running since he was 18.
Mm-hmm.
Like all that time and range of his company, and he only employs quote unquote dozens of people. You mean like 13 dozen? That would be also known as hundreds.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it is a little off about that. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is a pretty small number comparatively, like for like a life. Unless like he just has like a dozen or so crew that he's been worked with since he was 18.
Yeah, he has like a small special ops group of loggers.
Yeah, because
that
they're not
patrol
actually like
that area and do all the logging.
Yeah. Well, because they're not actually like full on, like they're not like it doesn't seem like, I mean, yes, he's a big company. He's like goes like from site to site, but they're basically going along the East Coast, and basically just clearing out like the logs that have already been brought down so they can get like the shingle and like basically process the wood for shingles and stuff like that.
Oh, they don't do the cutting?
No. I think it says there like early on in the story about that.
This is not important.
Yeah.
Okay, so John is talking to Nair's father. Does Nair's father have a name in this?
He never gets a name, neither does the wife, I don't think.
Okay, well, John's talking to Nair dad.
Yeah.
And
no,
he
it's
says-
Baker. It's Papa Baker.
okay, yeah, okay, Mr.
Old
Baker.
man Baker. Yeah.
Mhm. And he says something destroyed our house this weekend.
Mhm.
So that happened near the start.
Yeah.
And I imagine this as the house was leveled.
Yep.
Like, zero roof over your head now.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yep.
A bit of an
And then near the
exaggeration.
end- Hang on.
Yeah.
Then near the end, it's just described later as like a tornado has gone through it. It's like when they get to the house and they're actually describing it. I'm like, okay, so it is leveled. Great. And then they walk inside and say certain rooms aren't disturbed at all. And it's just like a little bit of a mess. And it's just like
A bit of an exaggeration on John's part.
a little bit.
Just a
I'm
tad.
honestly disappointed. Because
Yeah.
the whole story, I've been wanting to see how this house was completely leveled by this Bigfoot.
Right?
And it's just like, no, he's just kind of like threw a temper tantrum in there
Yeah.
and left.
Yeah, oh my god, he was Tommy Wiseau.
A little bit.
He was just a Hulk Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah.
Why, Timmy? Why?
You betrayed me.
Why you betray me? The wife was named Lisa.
Yeah, that's her name now. Lisa, why?
Why, Lisa? Why? Why'd you shoot me in the face through the window? Oh God.
Yes.
I'll definitely give you that. I was a little disappointed as well because I mean, like, I was expecting it's like, oh yeah, this house is gonna have like some boulders thrown at it, like, because that's what Bigfoot does. He throws like huge amounts of shit at things. In certain accounts, like people have had like rocks and logs chucked at their house. And yeah, so and the way it was described, like, is like my house has been destroyed, and then like a tornado went through it. And actually, when you're like, all right, so a tornado went through it. When it said a tornado went through it, I was like, I immediately went with like, oh, as if like somebody went in the house and ravaged the inside. So it's like, God, like I was a little bit put down from that. Yeah,
I was holding on to hope that tornado meant like a tornado hit the side of the house and was ripping the house apart as it went through it.
Yeah. No, I immediately like was a little crestfallen. Like it didn't ruin the story for me, but I was a little I was disappointed because of of the hype that we got early on in the story.
Yeah.
Of an entire house being destroyed by Bigfoot. Like I want that story. Like have Bigfoot ruin somebody's real estate. God damn it.
Because yeah, as it is, I can see why they said that. Oh, you probably just got drunk and did this one night, and you're blaming it on a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Because it's the equivalent of like the bad guys showing up in your action movie and turning your apartment upside down, trying to find the microfilm that you have.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like-
or again, Tommy Wiseau just amped up a little bit more.
Yeah, not much though.
Not a little bit more. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, like instead of like pushing the TV over, he hucks a 200-pound TV across the room.
I mean, Tommy Wiseau's pretty jacked. He could do it,
He is pretty jacked, but I think Bigfoot's a little bit more jack.
maybe. But anyways,
Yeah.
we can move this on. So this is at the
Actually, hang on. I'm gonna let you finish. I just realized I just cracked the code. Tommy Wiseau is a mostly hairless Bigfoot.
that makes a lot of sense.
God damn.
That's why he
cracked
doesn't
the
have a
code.
very good grip on the English language.
Yeah.
He's just learning.
Exactly.
And why he never talks about his past and stuff like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah?
He's a Bigfoot human hybrid.
but shaved. Wait, turn back the footage. Watch the movie. Does he have huge feet? I don't remember any specific.
I don't know
foot
either.
shots.
Damn it. We never see his feet.
My God.
If I could, I would definitely pop in the X-Files, like the intro music, like as we have that like revelation of, we never see his feet, and it just starts playing. Anyway, wow.
Yes.
Damn.
Amazing. But we'll move on.
Yes.
So back to the confrontation in the woods, where he stands up and all that.
Mhm.
Hard to make out the details, but its eyes seem to glow a deep red. And to me, I'm like, of course they did.
Yeah.
Honestly, that kind of ruined the reveal for me. Because it's so overdone. Like,
It
if
really
this is meant to be
is,
an actual creature, it shouldn't have glowing red eyes.
Well, here's the thing. It's glowing red eyes for no fucking reason. The creepy thing about glowing red eyes in movies or in reality, like if an owl will do that or like a nocturnal animal will do that, if you shine a fucking light at their face, that's when you get the glowing red eyes, because that's like it's that extra lens that nocturnal animals have on their eyes that cause them to get red eye. That's what makes them creepy. That's actually one of the reasons what they speculate that the Mothman is. Was like when the Mothman was seen, they saw it in front of their car, and it had glowing red eyes and this large black mass without a head and like big wings like outstretched behind it. So people have speculated that it was actually just a large owl that they saw out in those woods. That the light from their headlights basically casted red on the eyes. Like that's, but in this story, there's no flashlight. These kids, the John or Junior have. They're just out they're out at night, like it's sunset. So maybe the sun poking through the trees might have cast some light on like the shaded area where the Bigfoot was. But yeah, like
if it cast the light, you'd be able to see him.
Well, not necessarily. Sometimes it's just the like if it's dark enough, like there might have been enough shade there that it just kind of like reflected off the what light was there. But again, generally in stories, they're glowing for no goddamn reason other than like maybe to make it look like it's supernatural.
Yeah.
When really I think it's creepier if like you shine a light and you just get the reflection of the eyes, because that's the only thing that the light is able to really like kind of reflect off of.
Yeah, because it's been played up as it's an actual creature out there for realsies, and he's basically just an animal. Meanwhile, this is like, okay, what is he, from hell?
Yeah, like, exactly. Like
what the hell?
It's poetic, like it's a poetic descriptor, but it also kind of ruins the veneer of like realism here.
Those are the most overdone option you can choose for your eyes.
Absolutely.
Because it's an evil creature, so give it red eyes. Also, it's not an evil creature.
Yeah, exactly. Again, this is also from the point of view of the human.
Well, okay, but if the human sees red eyes, he sees red eyes.
Well, yeah, but again, like they're being like, it's like, oh, it was red eyes, like a doll's eyes, or like the coals of hell. It was coming for me. I swear it was. Like, no, it wasn't. You just scared it. It got big. You got scared, and you crashed your bike you crashed your bike and hurt and bumped your head on the sign. Didn't you? Yes.
It's so specific.
That was from Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh, okay.
When George Henderson like lashes out at the guy who said that Harry was evil when he crashed his bike and got attacked by Harry. Nice. I mean, that's not the perfect version of it, but that was basically that scene where like he just got like interrogated by George, and then George like looks super proud of himself, and then the newscast kind of like just converge on him. Like, how do you know so much about the Bigfoot?
Whoops.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the story.
So John sees the signs of how the Cowman was like climbing on the house and tried to get in his son's window and all that. And the quote is, before going into the woods, John wanted to feed the family's pigs. Why? Like, I get it that you'll find more clues there. Like, this isn't just being said for nothing. Spoilers, it was. But who sees evidence that a creature nearly took your child last night and goes, oh yeah, I should feed the pigs. I have chores to do.
I think what should have happened again, if this is actually like a legitimate story versus because if this is an actual account, then but if this is a story, which is how we're going to treat it, I do feel like you could have gone away like he wanted to go check the pigs, and when Patrick asks why, it's like because I don't hear them. It's about time for their feeding, and they're not squealing like they usually do. I want to make sure that
that would fix it 100%.
Yeah,
but this is just like he sees the evidence, and I feel like seeing that evidence would have spurred him on to want to find the Cowman even more, not being distracted with farm duties.
Exactly.
And after reading on, the pigs were just gone. So this better go somewhere, is what I say. And then another edit. No, it doesn't really go anywhere at all.
Yeah, no, we never see those pigs again. They are gone.
Yeah.
Like we don't even see
kind of a useless paragraph.
I mean, again,
I hate to say that.
Well, at the same time, it was like this. It might be that like that's just something that was in the story. Like again, like if this is an actual account, like that just might be a detail that was mentioned, and kind of adds a little bit more validity to the fact that this is an account that has some useless details because they don't go anywhere. Like as far as a story.
Yeah. Like my assumption of what happened was he being the
Cowman.
Cowman. The Cowman broke in. I know it was a long time ago. The Cowman broke into the pig pen to like eat a couple of pigs, and the rest of them just left because he didn't close the door behind him.
Nothing was broken or damaged from the thing. So I kind of figured he just walked over the fence into the mud into the pig pen, picked up the pigs, went over the fence again, and walked into the woods with the pigs.
How many did he have though?
The story only says that John had 2.
Oh, okay.
He only had 2 pigs. So
okay,
and they weren't big. They were actually small pigs. They weren't big ones. So he just picked them up and walked away.
Okay, fair.
Or maybe again playing on the fact that Bigfoot might be not as an evil monster. He just picked up the pigs because he saw that they were like penned up and just walked them out in the woods and just let them go.
Mm-hmm. He does squeal later, so I'm assuming he was trying to talk to them.
Oh, so maybe he was squealing, trying to like talk to the pigs. Yeah.
Yeah, he was previously trying to talk to the pigs and it didn't work, so that's why he was squealing later when talking to Timur.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's my third South Park reference. I didn't mean it. It just came out. I apologize. Will you forgive me?
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay, cool. So
time will tell.
Yes. So my second last one here. This is later on when he's Patrick's gone and he's sitting out front. He has his rifle in hand and he's seeing the red eyes in the barn for what seems like hours, is what he says.
Yeah.
So he's holding a rifle. Odds are he has a scope on it because it's a hunting rifle. He knows how to use it already. He's already said that. He has all the time in the world right now because it's standing there for what seems like hours. The target's not moving. Why doesn't he just try shooting it? He had a clean shot to hit it right between the eyes.
Yep.
I mean, it may have not killed it. Maybe he's only wanting to shoot at it in self-defense because he doesn't want to antagonize something he can't kill with a gun.
Yeah.
But still,
it might be
didn't
just
even think about it.
Yeah, it is odd. It might just be like a fear defense, like he couldn't bring himself to do it. He couldn't pull himself to do it, and that's why he had to like work up his courage to even like approach the barn and stuff.
Yeah, but that's my thing. Mm-hmm. He has a gun with a scope on it, probably, because why wouldn't he?
I mean, it is 1960.
It's a hunting rifle. You don't go hunting with iron sights.
It's 1960. No, that's going to be my rebuttal.
Fine, whatever. Regardless,
yeah,
he has the scrumph to go up there in person, but he doesn't have the scrumph to look through a scope at it. Like, I figured the way it would be is like he sees the eyes, like he knows it's there. He's like, okay, and he like cautiously looks at it through the scope and has to consider whether or not he should shoot it and antagonize it or not, and then decides to go over there.
The part of the story that we're not getting because John refuses to admit it is that he had a Henderson moment where he had the Bigfoot slowly in his scope, and he just couldn't bring himself to shoot it with that face, that adorable face.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm just gonna draw the Cowman as Harry from the Hendersons.
I mean, he looks like a Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
So
but
you're gonna draw Bigfoot. Great.
I mean that specific kind of Bigfoot, like that specific Bigfoot, because there are different like kind of ways you can draw a Bigfoot.
Yeah, you could draw him as a man bear peg. You could draw him.
Move on.
Fine. Yeah, my last one is honestly just about the whole sharp stick in the eye thing. So we already talked about it. Honestly,
okay.
I forgot to mark it off.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I guess we'll move on to final thoughts then. Where are my thoughts? So, it is a pretty interesting and harrowing tale of a family dealing with a neighboring Bigfoot. It's got tension, it's got action, a little bit of horror, and feels rather grounded, all things considered, like between the typos and some of the choices made. But otherwise, I mean, it's 1960, it's in America.
That can't be an excuse for everything.
It's going to be my excuse.
At least for the rest of this episode.
Yes. I do think that the creature may not have been as threatening as John was purporting it to be. Like, I think some of the escalation and some of the things are on the fault of the humans, but that's just me. Whether or not this is a true account or that this was just a story that was written and added to a Bigfoot Encounters segment, like, take that with a grain of salt, because again, like, that's kind of what you gotta do with Bigfoot stories and cryptid sighting stories in general, is to kind of like judge for yourself if you want to believe or not they're real accounts. So aside from that, like, I'd like to believe that there are monsters in the wilderness that evade us. Like, I do like the idea of cryptids existing. Part of me would like to believe that this is an account that happened. But as a story, I would still recommend this. Because it is a fun little Bigfoot story. Of a Bigfoot, not quite. There's a little bit of hype at the beginning about how much damage is inflicted on the home. But against that, like, I still recommend it. It's a fun read. So that's my recommendation. Mikey, the Stands for Evil.
All right. So I just had a thought.
Uh-oh.
What if John and the Cowman are on the same payroll?
What?
So, okay.
Please explain.
So at the beginning of the story, it's explained that the narrator's dad is the one that owns the logging company, and he has dozens of patents, which could in fact be supernatural. And then it says he has permits to salvage large amounts of wood in the coastal areas, primarily around Copalis Beach. And several of his men are on cutting crews that lived in and around the beach. And maybe his foreman owns the land around his house, which is a lot of forested area, but he didn't want it cut down. So the owner of the logging company sent in the Cowman to basically rough up John and his family to get them to leave.
It was an inside job the whole time, is what you're saying?
Yep.
That's like
that's quite
surprisingly plausible.
I guess. I don't quite buy it personally, but sure, for the sake of theory crafting.
I could see that being the plot of a movie.
Yeah. Like, are we thinking that this is like a Scooby-Doo sort of situation where it was Old Man Jenkins the whole time, like inside of a costume, or was it actually a Bigfoot that's on the payroll? Like, is it supernatural or is it a mundane situation here?
Well, either or.
Okay. Way to be non-committal about that. No.
Well, I mean, it says that he has patents, so he could have some patents for some summoning circles.
I think what he's trying to say is, yes, it's supernatural. No, it's not a guy in a suit.
I could also see like either or being the case. Like I don't know which one I'd like more. I think I'd like the Bigfoot being contracted to land, but yeah.
I'll say this: a guy in a suit isn't going to be able to just bowl over trees as he's running.
Yeah, I think we need a hairy situation. Yeah.
Unless, basically, it's a dude in power armor that has the monkey costume on top of the power armor.
He does say he has a lot. His dad has a lot of patents. Maybe one of the patents is for some new lumber, like lumber removal power armor. That then he like
or mechs, as you call them.
Yes, a mech suit.
We're gonna open that wound again.
Really?
No, we're not.
Like this is we didn't even like that wasn't even mentioned on recording, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Or even worse, it's an animatronic like Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh God. Yeah.
Wow.
We're going into some really weird hijinks here. Yeah, I could see that being the plot of a movie for sure. If it is the supernatural element where like they have the Bigfoot like on payroll, maybe the Bigfoot is being forced to do this. Like he's like got some kind of like binding power spell to him. That's like making him do this even though he doesn't want to ruin the trees and forests. Because generally Bigfoot is seen as a protector of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but he's given bananas, so he's fine. He's paid in bananas. It's a Donkey Kong situation.
Clearly. All right. So that was a theory. Thanks, Mikey.
So yeah, this story is very sort of action pasta and buddy horror.
Mm-hmm.
So it was enjoyable until the end, where it started trying to describe that the creature was male but female, and
it's such a weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that whole section just sort of took me out of it. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, we almost didn't even need that entire blurb, like of outside observation from the narrator author about the story I just told.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But overall, I'm going to give this a recommendation.
All right. So, gamer.
Well, I read it last minute. It was enjoyable to read, honestly. There was only a couple of things that were weird, stuff I brought up, like stereotypical red eyes being kind of boring. I agree the end is a little clunky and out of nowhere, like talking about the gender of it unnecessarily and stuff, because you're just telling a story of what happened, apparently.
Yeah.
But most of it didn't really take me out of it. The thing that took me the most out of it is probably the red eyes, like I said, and the house destruction not being as total as I thought it was.
Not living up to the hype.
No, not at all. But I mean, I'm not going to say I hate the story just because of those two little things, because it was fun to see what happened to him over the span of a couple of days. And I like that it was fleshed out. It wasn't just a short, tiny little story that I had to ask what happened, because we basically know everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Except for what happened to the damn pigs. There's number 3, sorry. And then it's 3 strikes, so now I hate it. That's the
goddamn. Nah.
No. I will at least give it a high partial recommendation.
Okay.
Partial plus, I guess, because I did enjoy it a lot, although there is a few weird things to it that I personally didn't like, or there's stuff brought up that goes nowhere for reasons.
Yeah. But
overall, it was an enjoyable story.
Okay. So roughly 2.5 recommendations out of 3.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So that was this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. We're all on Twitter, so you can leave us a comment there or talk to us there. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W because his name is very goddamn long.
It's got to be, though.
Yeah. And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, spooky things, cryptid sightings, and cryptids in general. Like if there's a neat little monster that you've heard of that you'd like us to talk about, let us know and we'll do a kitchen segment of it. So thank you to Lee for suggesting something that we really haven't touched on the show, and getting us to read a cool little Bigfoot sighting story.
It is weird that we're this far in without talking about Bigfoot. It's like if we never talked about Slender Man.
I mean, there's been a couple of creepypastas that, like historical creepypastas. I say historical in quotes. But like that took us a long time to finally get around to.
Yeah.
So, but if you'd like to help support the show financially, you can go to Patreon, like Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content, all that kind of good stuff. To our patrons that are already helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. To our listeners and the authors of the story, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it would be like screaming into the void. And without your authorship, without sharing these stories online and having people read them and enjoy them, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing really to talk about. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
The E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.